No one gives a shit about mobile.
No one gives a shit about
Hey,
mobile.
Whoa. They will when they need paychecks and they want jobs.
No, that's true.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to TWIG 349. I'm Jen Donahoe. I am the resident marketing, publishing, and Viking on the podcast today. Here's who we have.
Phil Black monetizations are first chair. Still slow, man. Still slow. Dude, pop a Red Bull like me before this
I was
show.
reading the notes, so I lost my cue. Eric Kress, Strategy and Investing.
Mishka Katka, friend of the founders, and happy for the ladies to go first.
Well, yes, thank you very much. The ladies. All right, Apple has a new gaming app. Here's what we got going on today. Forgot to intro the segment. Okay, Apple has a new gaming app. Actually, I've been playing with it for a while. We'll talk about it. It's just such a weird thing. Stash gets a new boss. Hopefully, Homa gets his kids as backfill. Is Discord going to IPO soon? Phil attempts a liver shot. Oof. A liver shot on Squadbusters. Nintendo Direct directly disappoints core gamers and crests. And if we get to it, we have some thoughts on Borderlands 4 as it is coming out. So let me start off with banter and just kind of like thank everyone. Last week I talked about I have an upcoming surgery. It's tomorrow, Thursday. So by the time you hear this, I will already be done and out, hopefully. Thank you. I was overwhelmed with the response. Like so many people reached out. A lot of kind words. I think I have like almost 1,000 responses on LinkedIn. It was kind of crazy. I probably also heard from about 20 people who either had brain surgery themselves or had family members. And all of the stories were just so lovely and gave me a lot of confidence that this is actually like not going to be, a really big deal. I think the thing I got commented on the most though was my new haircut. So if you're watching, you can see it. It is like kind of Viking, kind of Natalie Dormer in the Hunger Games or Judy from Cyberpunk 2077. I don't play that game, but I got that one. So on my appointment with my doctor, she said, "Oh my God, I had that haircut when I was a teenager. Can I put like a lightning bolt in it in surgery?" And I was like, yes, you can. Whatever you would like to do. So anyway, thank you everyone. And I will hand you over to the boys for the next 3 weeks after this, but I will be back soon because I don't know if I can take listening. It'll be rough. All right, what are we shilling?
Game Economist cast, obviously world's #1 Game Economist cast. We had Mr. Eric Seufert on the podcast. Just quick tease on that. Got to ask the questions I've always wanted to ask Eric. What should you do if you are the head marketing person on something like Battlefield? How do you deal with a lot of the brand spend? How do you analyze that? How do you think about that, knowing who you are? We talked about things like, why did free-to-play conquer games but stall on platforms like Twitch or Spotify? It was a really great podcast. I think it's very different from the other type of podcasts he's normally done. We talked about his master's degree at Harvard, which has been interesting and why that was important for him. So it was just really great to have him on. And, he's a former TWIG alum and he's always up to really interesting and awesome stuff.
Did you ask him for career advice?
I always do. I learn by observation when it comes to his career.
Yeah.
All right. So for me, I just did my biannual guest lecture at USC. They have a video game school there. So the class is by Ed Zobrist. It's an advanced game business class, and it's my 5th appearance. I'm becoming a regular. So I'm just telling the next generation of game makers, they are badass. And these are undergraduates mostly. I think there were 2 in graduate school, but the entrepreneurial spirit, they could care less about mobile though. They were like asking me all kinds of questions about like being an indie or a solo or a small group dev for Steam games. Like that's really all they care about. So my public service announcement again is if you're a game industry veteran and you have the ability to take a little bit of time, take the Yoda challenge, either mentor some of the next generation or go do a speaking gig at a local university. They appreciate it so much. And it's actually like really personally rewarding. So check that out. I think Kress has even done this. Kress has even opened his heart to the next generation.
I don't think my message is quite as positive as yours. I'll tell you that much. I did actually do the San Jose State class for Mike Williams. And yeah. I've actually followed Jeff Karp, and then Frank Jabot is coming in the next couple of weeks. So It's pretty cool to actually just do that and shoot the shit with these kids that are excited about the industry. So
they don't care about mobile, Like what do you mean they don't care?
No one
about
gives
mobile?
a shit about mobile.
No one gives a shit about
Whoa,
mobile.
whoa. They will when they need paychecks and they want jobs.
No, that's true.
They don't understand the empirical element yet. Like mobile and HD, very different, creative, easier to understand. Mobile, thicker, denser, more empirical. And then they're USC people, so they probably don't have a lot of empirical training.
They're also children, so they have more creative integrity than what it takes to build shit on mobile.
Correct.
You know?
They just haven't had to get a paycheck yet.
Yeah.
They haven't lost their soul yet. They haven't lost their soul.
One day. Let me show a little bit as well. Sebastian Bergman was on the podcast. He's the COO of Solstin, but he wasn't here to talk about Solstin. He talked about his book on why everyone needs a gaming strategy. So this was definitely a book aimed at brands and how the brands, and yeah, Chris is actually showing Chris Play. Look at that. Look at that.
Early copy.
Unopened.
Look at the binding is like perfect.
Yeah, you can see it through this. No,
every book in my house has perfect binding. Let me tell you that.
Yeah, he has the audio version of that. But no, so Sebastian has been talking a lot he was on Gamescom and he's doing a lot of talking events. He has like head of brand of Adidas with him and so forth. So it's very interesting to dive deeper of what the big corporations are thinking about gaming and gaming strategies. So that's one. If you're interested, that piece, and Press Play is the book, so check it out. And then on the blog, we had my post on work harder is not a strategy. So this is something that Joe Kim triggered me with his newsletter, and everybody who knows Joe Kim knows that he's the crown king of hard work. So he wrote a little bit about slipping milestones, low morale, vague roadmaps, and how we just need to move faster is not the right answer. And I continued with that. So anyways, that's on the blog.
I just had a lunch with game makers, Joe Kim, and a bunch of other folks down in San Mateo last week. That was really fun to get together with a big group. I did get a really positive, I forgot about this. I did get a really positive response from someone about what I was talking about with Unity, like with the post on Unity. And someone that had worked at Unity for a long time was like, yeah, it was really, really nice to actually hear from someone outside what we were all feeling inside under John Riccatello's reign. It's like, and I was like, oh my God, thank you for I'm glad I'm the voice of the people, so to speak, within these companies.
Channeling the feelings.
So summarize, what was your post about?
No, my post was the fact that John Riccatello managed to shit into the ground because he kept going after the stupid shit of broadening out to different verticals, going after movies and shit like that, right? Like just the way he is, spend to grow type thing. Rather than focusing on gaming and focusing on ad tech. That's what they should have done all along, right? Period. End of sentence. Oh. And clearly that's exactly what they're doing right now.
Epic's engine, the engine is used by so many other industries other than just games. And so maybe they saw that and they were jealous of Epic's, Unreal is doing.
No, this is PR puff pieces from The Mandalorian. They used it once because it was good marketing. What share of revenue do you think comes from non-gaming activities related to Unreal Engine? 10% of what is already 5% of Epic's revenue?
100%. It's not a real business. And so like when Unity was going IPO, I was getting calls to do some kind of like analysis on the TAM for different verticals for engines, right? I'm like, you're going fucking public and telling people that you're actually targeting these groups and you don't even know what the fucking TAM is? It's like it was all complete folly and bullshit, right? Sorry, this is moving on. All right, corrections. I don't want to go on a rant on fucking Unity. They're actually in good shape right now, by the way. It looks like things are actually looking up for him.
What's going on with Vector?
Yeah, Vector is real, like to some degree.
Yeah,
like it is a better tool, and they are getting some traction out there. The question is whether or not like AppLovin just fucking annihilates them in some way, just goes after them again. And their core engine business is absolute shit. But the engine business is what it is, but it's not growing. It's not interesting. So the fundamental question around Unity right now is whether or not they can actually access the information they suggest that they can, right? If they can access engine information from their clients, then they might actually be able to be competitive against AppLovin. And some people think they can, and some people think they can't. So that's kind of the big thing. But what's his name? Bromberg is doing an amazing job so far, even though I don't think people like him all that much. I think he's doing what's necessary to get that company back on track. So
interesting.
2 cents on Bromberg versus Riccatello, just from Unity events. So I vividly remember we're in Tel Aviv, Supercell was sitting next to me, and Riccatello was giving a speech, and it was about metaverse. And as soon as he finished the speech, he ran away. Like, it's not, you can ask Sufert what running from the stage looks like. He ran away just not to take the questions. And then on the last App Fest that Unity hosts, Bromberg was there, and I remember like the stark difference, because when there was halftime, quarter time, whatever you call it, like in between the talks, he was actually there mixing with key clients who are all present at this event. So that's just my 2 cents of seeing both of them work in a glimpse.
Game devs. Here at Heroic Labs, we know that great gameplay is what players love, but integrating metagame features like challenges, progression, and rewards is crucial for retention and monetization. But coding them is a tedious and time-consuming process. That's why top studios have turned to Hero from Heroic Labs. Hero provides a complete suite of battle-tested metagame features that are quick to implement, letting you spend more time on the core gameplay experience. Ready to ship fully featured, engaging games? Check out Hero today at heroiclabs.com.
Stay ahead of the competition with Sensor Tower, the trusted source for mobile marketing intelligence. Whether you're tracking trends, benchmarking performance, or scouting the next big hit, Sensor Tower delivers the data that drives strategy. Dominate the charts with Sensor Tower.
All right, moving on. Quick correction. Regarding my Diablo Immortal efforts, I did get a call from someone about that was on this team, and he generally objected to my assessment of the efforts from Blizzard on Diablo Immortal versus NetEase, right? He claims that it was more like 50-50, right? Which I think is complete fucking bullshit, frankly, honestly. It's not 50-50, dude. Like, and he admitted that it was like 80-20 in terms of personnel. And so if you think about man hours, I'm sticking with the 90-10. All right. But what he did say was that they did have an amazing team that pulled this thing together on the Blizzard side, like 40 to 50 people that were really high quality, which is totally true. And I totally know this, right? Is that they pulled together a team that was really good with PMs and designers. And they did the Herculean effort of pulling NetEase along and making this game as good as it was, particularly on the single player side. So they did the heavy lifting, which is totally true. And I will acknowledge that. My main point has always been, and I think we were both in agreement on this, is that this game would have never been made by Blizzard alone, right? The way it was for mobile, right? And without NetEase, it would just never have been made. And basically, what I've always been saying all along is that Blizzard has way too much creative integrity to do what it takes to make money on mobile, right? So it's just like, it's an impossible, solve to some degree. And they actually did it with Immortal. But the reason why they are no longer, it looks like they are completely moving away from mobile is likely because they just couldn't get the people on board to do what it takes to do what they need to do for mobile.
Regarding your correction, what is that? I think I can hear Irvine cheering from my house right now. There's still a huge amount of people that work on that love hearing, your support, and they are still kicking ass. They are still driving a lot of revenue. There's a woman who's leading that team, which is super, awesome. Super inspiring. Like Pei Wen, she's a fucking gangster rock star.
Yeah, she's a badass. That's part of the reason I'm making the apologies, because I know that she's fucking amazing, and I don't want to
Somebody's getting a lot of love.
Yeah, no, they are responsible for a lot of what's amazing right now, and so thank you for saying that. I know that makes them happy. All right, let's get into the headlines. So, from a market perspective, Phil gave me this one. This is really interesting. So, this is like a social media meets Steam kind of integration news. So these kinds of platforms are things that I think are going to be like absolutely game changing. And Phil, hopefully you agree, is why you put it in here. So Bilibili is a Chinese video sharing platform. If you haven't heard of it, it's kind of like the animation geek culture YouTube plus Twitch of China. So they are adding a one-button Steam wish listing soon. So, Phil, you found this post from Salva Zhou on LinkedIn. Are we going to agree that this is kind of like a PM plus a PMM's like acquisition dream?
This is huge. I actually think this is quite enormous news, which is being buried. I think the Chinese pronunciation is Bilibili. It's YouTube, it's anime, it's basically otaku culture for the Chinese market. And this is how a lot of Chinese users discover games. And so the fact that there's going to be a one-click add to Steam wish list, it's exactly what you said. I mean, it's a dream for marketers. And this is the theme we keep going back to in the last 2 years on the podcast, is the growth of Steam in China has been basically responsible for the lion's share of Steam's overall growth. The key question I have here, and I actually reached out to Zala, but I didn't get a comment in time for the podcast, is where is the wish list going? Is this going to the VPN Chinese Steam, or is this going to the domestic Steam that no one uses? And I would be fascinated if this went to the VPN Steam, because it feels like it's now just openly flagrant violation of Chinese law, and everyone seems to be okay with it. The CCP is okay with it. You know, the CCP that called games the opium of the people. I'm very curious to see how this will play out, but I think this is really big news for user acquisition and the growth of Steam in China, because I think this unlocks a lot of performance-based marketing spend, at least getting you to the wish list part of the funnel.
I hope our own platforms here in the West take note. Like, if, you know, Valve and Steam, so, oh my God, can you imagine if you're in TikTok or some of these other apps and you've been YouTube? Can you imagine going to YouTube and there was a one button press to download? Oh my God. It is a dream come true. All right. So let's go to the other platform that had some new news. Did you guys get an email from Apple? So Apple sent out the notification that their new Apple Games app is out. I saw it from my email. Then also we have a Polygon article that covered this. So I love the title of the Polygon article. Apple's new gaming app is out and it includes features you'll swear you already had. Oh my God. Can I just, like, as an aside, say I am an Apple user. I've been in the ecosystem. I am deep. I have every single possible thing that you can want. I just ordered 2 new Apple AirPod Pro 3s to come and show up. I'm embarrassed right now to be an iPhone user because every one of the features that comes out from them is something that an Android user had 5 years ago. And please, if you are at Apple on the iPhone or other side, like, let's start catching up and being innovative versus being a fast follow. Anyway, okay. So the new Games app came out with iOS 26, which is what launched on September 15th. I think it's rolling out slowly if you haven't already updated. I've been in the beta, so I've seen this for a while now. This was shown back at WWDC in June. So if you remember, I think we showed an image of it was like Marvel Snap on, you know, the different devices. Good, you know, good on those guys for getting as the central image on that. So the Apple's Games app is a central hub for all games across the App Store, App Store Arcade, and the Game Center. And this goes across all devices. So it does go to Mac. It does go to phone. Dear Xbox, I hope you're paying attention with your Xbox Anywhere that only actually goes to 2 platforms and doesn't include mobile. Just side note. This also includes personal recommendations, easy access to previously downloaded games. So this quote from the article was really interesting. The library tab won't just show you what games you currently have installed on your device, but every single game you've downloaded in the Apple ecosystem, including ones that have been delisted. Looking at you, Flappy Bird. Social and engagement features also show up. They show you what friends are playing, offering leaderboards, event tracking, and game invites. I think you can actually do some sort of like custom challenges with your friends. I thought this also sounded interesting. Again, I'm a Mac user. The Mac version of the app comes with an extra trick. It will automatically show you all games installed on your computer, whether they are from the App Store, Steam, GOG, or anywhere else. All of those games can be booted up from the Apple Games app directly, making it an all-in-one launcher. Interesting. So, Cress, this looks like Apple Arcade subscription isn't going anywhere. And I'm not doing this to trigger an Apple Arcade rant, I promise. But what do you think about all of this?
You know, I looked at it for a while last couple of days. I think it's completely embedded with the new iOS 26. So everyone should have access at this point if you upgraded to iOS 26. But so far, it looks like Apple is actually finally making an effort to do something positive for the gaming category.
Ooh,
okay,
I said it. Nice.
I said it. Now I'm going to have to burn myself, light myself on fire for saying something positive. But the app is like streamlined. You know, it does create an opportunity to create a real friends list, which obviously is a feature that's been around forever. But, you know, in Game Center, completely abandoned that for some reason. You can discover new in games, like you said. You can re-engage with old games, which is kind of cool for those that have churned out. You know, the arcade integration is there, which, you know, I'm not a huge fan of, to be honest. But certainly not good for third party, but I understand it. I get it. I know what they're coming from, right? They have events, they have achievements. I'm sure they have leaderboards. I mean, it creates a platform that actually could be quite cool going forward, right? But I have to reiterate my previous rant from when this thing was announced. What the fuck have they been doing for the last 15 years? You know, like, why is it now that they're finally uncovering all these fucking basic features that Game Center should have been evolving over time, you know? And I think it comes back to the same thing, right? They are up to something. They are totally up to something, right? This has nothing to do with gaming. This has something to do with protecting their ass on the 30% from every country in the free world that's suing their asses off. So, I don't know. So far, so good, though. And on the flip side of this is showing quite an effort. Like, this is not something that is like trivial in terms of what they're building. You know, they are trying to provide some value for the publishers and maybe, hopefully, to fix some kind of the discovery issues on the App Store, which is a fucking abomination still. You know, it might be a little bit too late. I'm not sure how customers will actually discover this app or use this app. Is this going to help them in the process of finding games? Are you going to go from advertising and push them into the gaming app versus the store app? I don't know. There's a lot of questions, right?
Yeah,
I'd love to see some CI as to like how the general consumer like sees this app and how they use this app, and or whether it is just a little bit too late and that people are already kind of like stuck in the rut of what they do in order to discover apps, which is primarily likely by advertising on Facebook and Apple, right? So I think there's some potential here, but it is unclear what their motivations are and what the future plans will be. So
I have like glass half full and then glass half empty. So the glass half full take would be that now you have all your games in one place and it's the low friction. And most importantly, you can see the old games. You remember that game that you downloaded back on your iPhone, 5 or 4? That's all there. If you download it, you'd be like, why the hell did I play ever this game? There's social features, there's challenges. So that could be a sleeper hit. We don't know, but social is always powerful. The discovery seems to be better, so that might help with overlooked games. Like even now, as we're looking at this, top games played and very well surfaced. There is controller support, so the whole cross-platform play. Like who hasn't played Delta Force on their computer with a controller? It works in the landscape, and now I don't know. I'm not going to go glass half empty here. Anyways, so the games look good on a big screen. And then the glass half empty take, aka the Neil Long take, would be that shout out to Neil Long of Mobile Gamer Biz. So feels like a Game Center dressed up, friends, leaderboards, achievements, event tracking. There's nothing new in that. Like we had this before. And of course, you don't have to do new if you do it what existed, but better. The discovery part, just like Phil is showing here, it shows Matchmasters, it shows Brawl Stars, it shows Clash Royale. So again, like ton of Supercell games. So is this just the same thing where they promoting their big games and Apple Arcade indies and then nobody else, nobody in the middle, and nobody who's smaller or who didn't publish with Apple Arcade? For developers, it seems like this is, a bunch of new hoops that you have to jump through in order to get that coveted featuring that Apple will hold for you. And then once you get that coveted feature, is it going to be the same as it has been for a decade? A poor organic traffic. It's just, it just blows your KPIs. And it feels also just like anything Apple does, a way to force hardware updates, because this is their liquid glass thing, their transparency effects, the animation richness. It's just like, get the new iPhone, don't get the iPhone Air because it's it's weak, but get the Pro fucking 2000. Anyways, I do have to also agree with Cress on the other 30% defense against the other 30%. I know we're going to talk about Stash later in this episode, because if you're a conspiracy theorist, like we all here are on this podcast, it's corporate conspiracy theorists. You put all your games into one app and you take it from everywhere else and say, in this app, only Apple Pay works. So no third-party payment options. And that would be the conspiracy theory of this new app that has games. Because under a single app, you don't have to enforce that. So that could be it or not. We're just conspiracy theorists. Phil, what do you think?
There's a couple structural things that I think are important to point out here. So remember, your app updates, including games, are still going to happen on the App Store app. So you don't get updates through this app, which I think is really important. The key question is, where are people going to start their discovery, right? And so this app is only relevant if people start their discovery on the games app and use the search bar within that app. That is the key question to me, is how does this fit into the ecosystem? And so are people going to start discovering games through this app, or are they going to go back to the app store? It's unclear to me what the product management angle is, the fact that they decided to disambiguate these things. The nice thing is the editorials are gone. They're finally gone.
Yeah.
And I think that the other piece here that I thought was really important that we haven't quite talked about, the top lists are back, right? So remember they moved to the top grossing lists. They still have the top download lists. And now we get this Game Center top played games. Now, I'm not quite sure what that means. I'm sure it's some measure of active users. And so that's a boon if you're Sensor Tower. And I'm very interested to see if Sensor Tower will do a press release. I'm very curious what this top played games means. But again, this goes back, remember we were talking about the GameCraft podcast and a lot of Blake and Mitch's theory around the top grossing charts being a huge doom loop because people were using it for discovery and then they were hacking UA. And so I'm very interested to see whether or not this is going to be powerful enough to reintroduce that behavior. All signs point to it won't be, because I don't think people are going to engage in this side app. But that being said, like, I agree with you guys. Like, it is nice for Apple to throw us the bone. My concern is that this could be negative for us, because they're going to start to remove featuring from the App Store app, which is where all the discovery and impressions happen, and segment it into this. They're basically just shoving all the games people into a junk app. I actually think this could be negative, depending on what the actual user interaction with it is. To your point, what does the CI look like for this? I think is going to be very, very interesting.
I want to double down on exactly what both of you were saying. And by the way, CI is consumer insights. If you aren't following what that is I'm in the beta. So I've had this app for, a few months now. I don't understand the use case for it. And I am not directed to engage in the player journey using this centralized app. So first, when it downloads to your phone, it goes at the back of all of your apps. At least this is how I think about using my phone, is my first screen is like all the stuff that I use. And if you're on like the fourth or fifth, like scroll, I'm almost never really going there. I just don't understand why I would go and think to make this part of my player journey and engaging my games and not going directly to my games. From a user acquisition standpoint, what drives me to this app to then see this and engage with this on a daily basis? You know, if I were them, and I don't know how it works, like this still needs to be somehow like in the App Store, and that opens up inside of the App Store itself, which is what you are trained to do. You're trying to ask a player to go on a different player journey than they've ever engaged in on the device. And so that's what I'm super worried about, is if they're not going to market you and direct you to this funnel, no one's going to go to this funnel.
I couldn't agree more. I think that the key will be all the social features, right? Like that's the USP that would drive people to the app is, I have a new challenge. I have to open this app, or, have a new cheat and I have to claim.
I don't understand. Like, don't you just get that in the game that you're playing? Like,
I can see my achievements here.
Yeah.
I can see my achievements relative to global players. Remember, that was really important for Steam data too. That's how we saw that, like, for instance, Call of Duty's single player completion rates were collapsing. This was a great Ars Technica piece a couple of years back. So like a lot more data becomes visible, but it's got to be those social features that bring you back, your friends list management. Anytime you think about opening Xbox, you might be opening this.
All right, let's keep going. So Phil, you want to talk about TikTok?
I think I just want to give a warm welcome to the TikTok family, to the US of A, baby. It is being sold to a conglomerate of Oracle, Silver Lake, which is a private equity firm, I believe. Correct me if I'm wrong, Eric. And then, of course, A16Z is going to have a stake in it. U.S. investors are going to hold 80%, and Americans are going to dominate the board. And there's going to be one member that's selected by the U.S. government, which is terrifying. And not only that, U.S. users are actually going to have to move to a new app. Well, I'm very interested to see how they handle that transition. High-risk moment is making sure that transition is consistent.
Wait, when the fuck did this happen?
Deal is not done, but the final talks to be bought.
Yep. I mean, there's some shenanigans over whether or not this is going to be packaged into broader U.S. negotiations over tariffs. The other interesting piece here is that the U.S. firm is actually going to license the algorithm from the Chinese. Of course, like all the data is now going to go through the United States. And the next piece is like, this is going to be done in 30 to 45 days, ladies and gentlemen. Like, this is happening, and there is a moment that this could disrupt user acquisition in mobile. So I do think there's something to planning around this and thinking about how can you leverage this? How can you take advantage of this if you know this is coming? What are the effects we expect on CPIs?
Oof.
I don't know. I just find this weird. Oracle Silver Lake, which is private equity, and Andreessen Horowitz. What is a VC fund doing here?
They're a registered investment advisor. They're not really a VC anymore.
So shouldn't they exit companies, not acquire?
I have so many things to say about this, but it all gets really political really fast. So I'm not going to go here, but this is really fascinating. And unfortunately, my daughter is still addicted to TikTok. So
as is every one.
There goes my hundreds of thousands of dollars for education blown on a fucking piece of shit app. All right, let's just move on. This is actually fascinating. The fact that this actually got done is absolutely crazy.
All right. Oh, well, let me talk about AI. So Germany-based AI gaming tech company, Bornhaus, has raised 15 million in Series A round led by Excel with participation with Tencent and our friends at Latam Ventures. Phil, you got to show this picture. You got to show this picture. So formerly known as Slay, which clearly is evident from the picture that these boys slay, Born is developing AI-driven virtual companion and social app. The company previously secured 5 million in June 24. The total funds equal to 25. When I saw this picture, I pinged Gurkim. I was like, Gurkim, did you invest into a boy band? Because
seriously.
But on a more serious note, I actually wanted to ask Cress and the rest of you, like, are we in this sort of an AI for X bubble? And before you guys answer this, let me explain. So a little bit about Born. So I'm just taking this company as an example. I'm not saying this is the epitome of a bubble, but just as an example of a company that gets a pretty big raise. So they released 5 #1 global social apps. Great. Their flagship AI character, Pengu, raised, played with, and even co-parented by friends and family, has reached more than 50 million users globally, becoming the biggest AI character app with its own IP in the US. Born now raised 25 million to blah, 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 blah. So they prompted this whole thing, as they should. And they're basically saying this one app as an example, it shows how good they are in this. And Pengu might be great. I didn't have the time to interact with it. It has 15 million downloads and 2 million in net revenue over its lifetime. Revenues are decreasing pretty rapidly at this moment. The way I see it, it's break even at best as an app, likely not due to the high running cost, because every time you send a prompt, the AI model has to run forward passes through billions of parameters. This requires GPUs, which are fucking expensive, as anybody who's invested in NVIDIA knows, to buy, to rent, to power. And the more complicated your AI app is, the longer the prompts and the longer the outputs mean more tokens, means more GPU cycles, means more cost. And again, looking at these curves, again, I understand that they're going to release more great AI apps. I just don't understand where these valuations are coming from.
All I want to say is, fuck you guys. You stole my Pengu. Pengu is the main character in Teamfight Tactics, TFT. Dear Riot, go sue them, because I'm looking at the app icon and it's a penguin, and that's Pengu. So fuck you.
By the way, they talk about in this publication like how Pengu is their original IP and the first like big like AI IP, and it's literally from TFT.
Yeah, they ripped off my beloved little Pengu. Oh yeah. God, assholes! I don't want to get too crazy, but any of the character AI stuff is really, really scary. I listened to a podcast this morning about how different folks are falling into AI delusions, and they're also falling into these like really negative relationships with these character AIs, especially kids. So I don't know, just if you've got kids, watch out for that stuff. All right. So the thing that I wanted to talk about, I was hearing some rumors that like basically I think some of the big news will be that Discord is going to IPO sometime soon. I don't know what soon means, but I think we've been starting to see a lot of signs that are pointing towards this. So they were rumored to go IPO back in 21, 22, and they've been making a ton of headway on revenue. They have the Nitro subscriptions, they have server subscriptions, they have App Store and bot monetization. And then obviously on quests, then they also have advertising. So I have just as a user been seeing, a ton of the advertising. We've talked about it before. What they're doing is just like amazing. In terms of ads, we talked about it with Roblox as well. We saw Roblox making a lot of headway with mobile rewarded video. And I know that for Discord, they've been doing mobile ad testing with all of the big companies. I think Supercell was in there. I've also been seeing, I always have my Discord open on desktop, and I see ads all the time in a non-intrusive sidebar. And those advertisers are top tier. It is, top game companies, top streaming companies, tech and hardware, productivity, like all of the big names are involved in this. And I have to imagine that everyone is clamoring to be a part of this beta because of the segmentation and the way that you can reach these audiences. So, Cress, as the master of all of these things, is there any Sherlock Holmes work that you've done to understand if Discord IPO might be coming soon? Or which comes first? So we got Discord, and then the other rumor we always talk about is Supercell. So what are you finding out? What are you hearing?
Oh, actually, unfortunately, I have not heard anything specifically on Discord, except what we talked about before was the fact that they got the new CEO and he's focusing on advertising and really driving the advertising business, which is something they should have done from the get-go. We are seeing the market getting a little bit more ripe for IPOs. I think according to ChatGPT, we have 244 IPOs this year, up 80% from last year. Some of the evaluations are a little bit weaker, in terms of history. We've even seen some SPACs starting to hit the markets, which is fucking scary, dude, because that's a disaster. But if you think about it from the perspective of investors, if you look at the Discord investor list, we're talking about Franklin Templeton, Coteau, Fidelity Investments, Green Oak, Index, Benchmark, First One, Greylark. There are a lot of investors here that want some fucking liquidity, right? Because this thing has been really invested over time. So yeah, if they can get a window, they're going to go out. The question is if they can maintain this valuation that they go out public with their advertising and the rest of what they're trying to do from a revenue perspective. So I think it's possible. I think Discord is far more likely than Supercell given the market that they're in.
They're investing into their ad solutions now.
Yeah. Which is what they should have done from inception.
Long time ago.
As Sufert says, everything is an ad network.
Exactly.
And he's also an advisor, by the way, to Discord. We talk about this on our episode.
Oh, that's cool.
Is that right?
Yeah.
For how long?
Yeah, absolutely. A couple of months. I think he's a big part of Quests too, right? Because Quests finally give us direct user attribution in HD, which is a huge step forward. Yeah. And so this is a lifeline. I mean, we talked about this when Quest launched, but this is just such an important problem for HD to solve. I work with a lot of HD companies that have really good user numbers, steady monetization, but they're trying to figure out how to grow their business. This is what mobile free-to-play solved. This is still a huge issue on HD, and I am really positive on a lot of these efforts, and I just hope they pan out because we all have a vested interest in this.
So let me just be clear again on this whole idea, is that the Benchmark guys on their podcast talking about discovery and bringing, attribution and user acquisition to PC, right? And Discord is the unique opportunity from a distribution perspective or whatever. He's spewing this stuff out there and throwing this out there in the effort to bring more visibility into Discord, to bring them public. I mean, this is all part of the whole machine of bringing people public, right? And to get more interest in the story that they're creating. And so, Mitch was out there talking about this ages ago, and that's just all part of the PR, scheme to get them more interested. Will they actually this materialize and be a valuable contributor to discovery and marketing? Who knows, right? But
just like Twitch, they're not going to make money on selling server upgrades and funky emojis.
Yeah, you're preaching to the choir here, but I've been bitching about this for these two companies for so long. It's just I'm tired of hearing myself talk about it, right? But whether or not it's still going to be a meaningful contributor to acquisition remains to be seen, right? But they're making the effort now, which is really, really good. And it gives them a much better story to tell Wall Street.
Yeah, if anyone is working with them on ad products, especially on the mobile side, I just would love to hear how those tests are going. I would have to imagine it's expensive, but if we start to see really high good conversion and good, traffic coming through, then it's going to unlock magic for them. I mean, look at AppLovin, for God's sake. They can never be as powerful what AppLovin is on mobile because you can't track as much of the information, but I would imagine that's who they're aspiring to be. All right. So let's keep going. We want to give a huge congratulations to friend of the pod, Henry Lowenfels, for leaving Homa. And he has become the CEO of Stash. Well done on the comms. I saw this everywhere. And my question to him is, are his kids, I don't know if you guys remember, but his kids were on our podcast maybe last year.
Amazing.
And they were brilliant. They were awesome. And I hope they can backfill him at Homa and they have their own job in the game industry.
I want to say congrats. I'm a huge fan of Henry. He's a great guy. I haven't actually spoken to him in a while because it seems like he's clearly very busy and too busy to talk to me. But as I said on LinkedIn, good luck managing Archie. he's a handful, right? And I really wanted to make some derogatory comment about the French or working for the French, but it seems like this is more like a move to a bigger, better opportunity and has nothing to do with working for the French. But anyway, well-deserved. Good luck with Archie, and good luck at your new gig.
Yeah. Oma is actually doing pretty well. And I knew that something was happening because I pinged him. We pulled the stats and Homo was like number 1 in terms of hybrid casual in our purchase revenues. I'm like, Henry, congratulations. He was like, yeah, we've been working pretty hard. But he wasn't like pumping it. Like before, he would have reached out to me and to Phil so that we could chill how well they're doing. So clearly something was up in the air. But I want to congratulate, of course, my cousin Henry. He makes the entire Feldman clan proud. So way to go, Henry. And yet, like, I have to be the analyst. And I have to say that you don't switch the gaffer if you're winning. So, you know, Dom can roll the app charge clip over here, but web stores. You've seen what good looks like, but have you seen great? AppCharge is the direct-to-consumer platform backed by the likes of Supercell and built by monetization pros from Moonactive, Pleatica, Huge Games, and others. People who know the difference. AppCharge powers over $500 million in transaction a year for top studios, optimizing every detail. Deeply personalized web store offers custom-made design, industry-leading monetization features, in-game payments, SDK, and more. 70% of top grossing games already have a web store, but the ones scaling fastest, they're doing it with AppCharge. Learn more at appcharge.com. Hey, are you building a game, launching an app, or considering an acquisition? Well, in that case, Deconstructor Fund Consulting is here to help you out. We do everything from market research to go-to-market strategies to live ops optimization and due diligence. We're trusted by some of the most beloved game development companies, makers of tools and tech, as well as some of the most renowned investors. Now, if you are building, launching, or buying, don't do it alone. Do it with us. Connect by emailing to consulting@deconstructorofun.com.
In today's hyper-competitive digital landscape, understanding your app's journey from discovery to download isn't just insightful, it's the difference between scaling and stagnating. Enter AppsFlyer, the undisputed leader in mobile attribution and marketing analytics. They've mastered the science of making every ad dollar work harder by revealing exactly where your players come from and how they interact with your app. Their platform transforms mountains of complex data into clear, actionable intelligence that separates winning campaigns from budget-draining experiments. And I know that many of the top game companies leverage AppsFlyer and are a key partner in their success. AppsFlyer, where your app's potential meets performance. Oh, all right. So, Cress, let's hear about the Nintendo Direct.
All right. Well, Nintendo had their, I think, first Switch 2 official Direct, as far as I can tell, in line with the Super Mario 40th anniversary. And so they announced a few games that are coming out. First of all, remakes for Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 on October 2nd. The big announcement was a new movie in April of 2026 for Super Mario. They did announce a release date for Metroid Prime, which I think people will really like. They are doing Switch 2 editions of Mario Tennis, Fever, Yoshi, and Super Mario Wonder. There was a few third-party announcements: Pokemon Pokopia, Pokemon Legends, Hades 2, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Dragon Quest VII, I think that's a remake as well. I don't know. There wasn't that many surprises, but one of the surprises was a Virtual Boy revival potentially teased, which is fascinating. And they also announced ports of Resident Evil 7, 8, Fatal Frame 2, Stardew Valley, and Overcooked 2. So I think the only real notable missing thing from this particular first-party announcement was any information on any new Zeldas or Smash Brothers or
the Zelda movie.
Or Animal Crossing.
Or the Zelda movie.
Yeah,
fair enough.
So there's nothing really Zelda related, Animal Crossing or Smash Brothers, which are the three big IPs that seem to be missing from this announcement. My take kind of on this is like the lack of new IP in Nintendo's library is relatively evident. Like they aren't doing anything new. It's like remaster, remake, spin-off, oh my. Like that's just the constant like regurgitating of the same type of content. And despite my like overwhelmingly positive take on Switch 2, both now and in the future, I think you're starting to see some of the core backlash against new IP and new things in the ecosystem, because I don't think we're really seeing any type of Nintendo innovation whatsoever. And maybe people will disagree with me on this, but even the hardware itself is so iterative. It's almost very Sony-like, or Microsoft-like. So, but I think that's kind of where we are in this console cycle. And I talk about this all the time. It's like, you rinse and repeat and repeat and rinse and just keep doing the same thing over and over again. And that's what really the kind of the customers want. This could impact their hardware software thing longer term, but I don't think that's going to manifest itself anytime soon, But I think for the sake of the customer and some of the core like Nintendo fanboys, I'm hoping that they get more creative inspiration going forward and create new things for the platform as it gets more mature. I mean, I think that's kind of important, but I think it's delivering again what the customers want. And despite some, trepidation from a, vocal minority, like the IGN guys or some of the enthusiast press, I think this is what's going to make them successful. And finally, I would just say like this first holiday will really set the tone for the whole cycle. And I think they will deliver what the customer wants more broadly. And I believe that this holiday is going to be record breaking for them, given the content that they have and what they're providing for their customer. So overall, still very positive.
I think that's a great, kind of summary of everything. The things that I wanted to pull out from that. I mean, I agree with you. I was bummed to see there wasn't like a Zelda, and you're right in the huge gap with Super Smash Brothers. Like, I don't think they've done one since like 2018 or something like that. So the thing I wanted to pull out was the Super Mario Galaxy movie. So that's set, like you said, to come out April of 2026 in the US. I have to say, I didn't love the trailer. And, maybe it's because Super Mario Galaxy was when I was a little bit older, but I remember that being the first like 3D version of Mario. And because Mario 1, the Mario movie, was already in 3D, I didn't feel that it was like a really good, unique trailer that really teased anything for me other than there's more Mario coming to the movie theater. So if there was a tease, it was really insider. I was like, where's the little star guy? It was like you're following a butterfly through the fields and then up into the sky. And I'm like, it's not really even hitting on anything. What was interesting is this point, which is Super Mario Galaxy and Galaxy 2 are going to be released as a bundle in October, like you said. So before the holiday season, which we all know, we call it, Q4 or the hard 8 that leads into the holiday timeframe. Like, this is a big deal. The standalone prices are $40 and then $70 for the bundle.
Jesus, really?
Yeah, like I was like, this is crazy.
These games are 1,000 years old.
That's what I was going to say is like, these things look like ports. They didn't even say remastered. I think the articles I saw were like visualization improvements, but I was like, this is insulting. This is insulting to the core player. However, on the other hand, to your repurpose and rinse and repeat, this is brilliant because you're relaunching this content at the best time for the holiday season when all the parents are going to be out there looking for something to, buy for the Switch. It's Mario. We're coming up on the movie hype and the anniversary. So in the toy industry, we have a thing where we would relaunch all of our major IP every 5, 7, 10 years because you have a chance to reach a brand new generation of kids that don't know anything about your IP. So Beyblade is like a toy brand that has been relaunched like 3 or 4 or 5 times since I started working on it back in the day. So now what you're doing is by just putting these ports out there, all these kids have no idea that this game existed. So to them, it's brand new. You didn't have to spend a lot of money. You've got nostalgia for older parents who are like, oh, I remember playing that game. Isn't that great? So, the learning, folks, is that sometimes if you do like a little facelift and relaunch it, it's a brand new thing for others. I just think as people in the industry, it feels gross because they didn't even really make an effort to improve it.
Well, I think that's a great segue into their transition to being a Hollywood company and just rehashing old ideas. I think we should understand the Super Mario movie in the context of Nintendo's P&L. So Nintendo pre-Switch 2, correct me if I'm wrong, Eric, around 12, 14 billion a year in gross. The Super Mario movie, just in its theatrical run worldwide, did around $1.4 billion. So we start to add in DVD, huge, and we start to add in DVD, streaming rights, all those things, easily going to clear $2 billion potentially within the year it was released. So that's a material impact on Nintendo's P&L.
Whoa. They don't get all that.
They don't get nearly any of that.
Sure, but I would argue that there's some serious margin in that because remember it's animation, which not only
no. They don't make the movies. Like they license this shit. They're gonna get 10 or 15%. They don't take on.
I think they're going to get a lot more, and especially now that this thing is chugging, they're going to be in an extremely powerful negotiating position. I mean, Hollywood executives are, I'm sure, fighting tooth and nail to get a piece of this. And I'm sure they're going to start to own more and more of the production pipeline as this. Look at we've got.
I'll concede that. But when you throw numbers like 1.5, 2 billion, 3 billion, like that's not going to the bottom line.
I mean,
Nintendo.
Sure,
that's
was
completely
the box
fair.
Office. Yes, correct.
That's completely fair. But now they're going to start to be stacked, right? Now it's not just one movie a year; it's 2 movies a year, it's 3 movies a year, right? No, and not only that, it's animation, so your production cycles can be way quicker. They're going to shit one of these out every single year. It's coming out a year later, Jen.
No, it's not. The movie was last year. The Super Mario movie?
So what is that? 18 months?
That's not how it works. Animation is very expensive, very, very lengthy. It takes forever. The approval rights from Nintendo have got to be like a huge pain in the ass. These movies are actually incredibly expensive, and which is why Nintendo farms it out to Hollywood, who knows how to do that, who takes all of the risk, and they only make between 10 and 20% as kind of like a licensing fee on that. Then again, what happens is all boats rise. So they're going to get a cut from all the consumer products. So when Mario came out last year or 2 years ago, was it 24? I think it was 24. Like the toy, actually, I think it was 23 because I was working on a toy project and Mario was one of the top selling toy brands from an action figure perspective. But that entire line only sold around maybe $130 million retail sales.
You still at the margin though, relative to like a physical movie, animation can be done at a much quicker pace and at a much lower budget. Like if we were to compare this to what the Link movie is going to cost, I would argue it's going to be a lot less. Not only that, for the sequels too, it's not going to be rising costs. Like they can lock down these voice actors forever. And to your point, Jen, it's not just the toys. Remember, they got the theme parks too, right? They have the one in California and they have the one in Japan.
That. Yeah, all of this is licensed. And it's, by the way, that business is amazing.
Totally, right?
When you license your IP, it's like,
what did Eric say? Line them up like Coke and snort them,
exactly.
Right?
No, I mean,
he said that?
that was a great line. People missed on that. Line up those minimum guarantees and snort them up. But these movies are going to become...
Dorf's doing all day long, right?
Oh my God.
But this is starting to matter more and more to them, right? This is them becoming the Japanese Disney that they should have always been, right? This is them embracing their identity, and I think this is really positive for them. I think it's good for the country of Japan.
That's great. Yes.
Sorry, Phil. I agree with all that you're saying. Maybe some of the pieces are a little exaggerated, but whoever exaggerates on this podcast?
No, nobody.
But yeah, I think you're right. This is a boon for them if they can build particularly a second successful movie out of this franchise and then continue to release stuff. This will be a good margin driver for them.
But this is just the start. Their war chest is unreal. When's the Kirby movie coming? I'm sure they're already talking about it. Donkey Kong. We already have Link. They're going to be shitting these out. These are ready-made.
Part of the thesis of why I was really bullish on Nintendo, particularly for the Switch 2, is that the new management basically said outwardly that they were going to embrace what you're suggesting, is that they were going to go broad, do movies, do theme parks, do more licensing, and get out there compared to what they've done in the past. And this was part of the positive thesis, not to mention the fact that the Switch 2 is a no-brainer. So yeah, it looks like they are starting to execute against this idea and this plan.
And one last shout out to Pokemon Pokopia. This is what people have been asking for forever, is an Animal Crossing style Pokemon game. I mean, I know this thing is going to do gangbusters.
I forgot to mention that. Like, this is what Animal Crossing should have been, right? Like with Pokemon. So,
oh my God, I'll never see my wife again. She will like lose herself in this game. She has 4,000 hours in Animal Crossing. It's insane.
I'm actually a little bit surprised Nintendo is allowing this kind of thing where they're literally copying. They're one of their biggest IPs.
Well, they don't own Game Freak though, right?
I know, entirely. But they are like attached at the hip. You know, they own like, I think 20-25%.
Let's keep going because Phil wants to take a shot at Supercell.
It's not Mishka. Mishka wants me to take a.
Exactly. No. No, you took a shot, and I wanna understand where this is coming from, because I open up LinkedIn. He tags me to this goddamn assault. So the main points that Phil has are good. There's two main points. It's been 2 years since the game Squad Busters launched, and not only have the metrics not improved despite few overhauls, but they've actually worsened, and it's clear from the graph. And he says that Supercell needs to grow Squad Buster before it becomes something far more costly, which is a resource vampire, referencing to the many games in development and the many games that they have live. So understandable notes. But then I'm going to add few quotes from this LinkedIn post. Quote 1, Squad Busters is Supercell's first flop, revealing that they failed at the IPO test. Quote 2, corporatism seems to have fully embraced Supercell. Mind you, the CEO of Supercell is tagged also in this post. Quote 3, what was one of Supercell's greatest strengths, moving on from projects, will now become one of its greatest weaknesses. Quote 4, Moco, which has had one of the most underwhelming, confusing, and bamboozling launches, second only to Squad Busters. And last quote, the North American studio appears to have still produced Jack Squad, and Supercell X has embraced Area 51 branding. Nothing goes in or out.
Oh, God.
What the fuck's Phil?
Well, there's some positive things in there that I applauded them for taking the risk of these launches. I've been debating going and doing, there was the Squad Busters post, there was the Squad Busters 1 month later. And, I was debating a Squad Busters 1 year later, and the ultimate reality is just no one cares. And when I was writing the 1 month later post, we said down but not out. And I think we can finally say down and out. But the thing I raised when we did that 1 month later was that I was very concerned that as Supercell started to grow and become more corporate and all of the corporate politics started to enter the company, that this would become a resource vampire and they would struggle to move on from it, right? We talked about the game deaths, which aren't really game deaths, the champagne popping. I was thinking about how much all of this really seems to bother me. And it really seems to bother me because there's two pieces. There's the Squad Busters piece, and I think there's the broader Supercell piece. But Supercell is a shining city on a hill for all of us, right? And we always talk about they don't owe us jack shit. But the reality is that they are trying to IPO. It's very obvious they're trying to IPO. And they've pivoted this company. The Supercell is dead. There is no more Supercells. That whole concept is fried. And what I keep waiting for Ilka to put in his letter for him to embrace is what this new Supercell is going to look like. This is where Supercell needs leadership the most, right? This is where they need someone to tighten the ship and to make tough choices in a corporation. Because here's the reality, right? Squad Busters got shipped to the London team. And they always used to talk about that game teams themselves kill games. But now that you're in a corporation, there's all these politics. They're not quite sure, if we choose to kill this game, where do we go? Do we get laid off? All those things are very real reality checks that Supercell is now going to have to deal with. And they need to kill Squad Busters to set the tone that, this is what happens. Sometimes games don't succeed and we need to move on from them. Ilka's letter was talking about we're not taking enough risks launching stuff. We're not doing new stuff, in terms of how we launch Squad Busters, how we launch Moco. And again, I'm so with him on this. I really applaud them for making these efforts. But now the risk is you need to be able to move on from these things. And what happens is that weakness hides in numbers. And this is a great example of it. You're 2 years into this game. You've done multiple game overhauls and the KPIs have worsened. The deer has been shot and is wounded. And someone needs to put it out of its misery because Squad Busters doesn't deserve this. It doesn't deserve this. It deserves to die an honorable death. And now it's just bleeding and bleeding and bleeding. And I can imagine if you're a person on that team, you're looking at those dashboards. You're looking at the fact that this is 0.1% of Supercell's portfolio. And you're starting to have uncertainty about what the future looks like. And so they need to be able to kill this thing and move on. And ultimately, Ilka needs, I would argue, to step up and not become the world's least powerful CEO, but to figure out how corporatism is going to work in Scopely. And corporatism is a bad word, but it's the reality of scaling. It's the reality of trying to get these things in a place where you can have Clash Royale make $1 bajillion. And so I'm just hoping for more leadership and more reality checks about where they are and what they need to do to get to the next step. It's just been really disappointing. North America, what the fuck is going on over there? It's been, 10 years? What is going Supercell? Again, they don't owe us anything, but these things are hiding on the P&L. And if you want to make games that are remembered forever, go do that. Squad Busters is not going to be remembered forever. And take it from your number one fan. Take it from the guy who thought this had the biggest potential in terms of downloads at all. It's time to put this thing to rest. It deserves an honorable death. Give it that honorable death. And now you have to answer the tough questions, right? What are you going to do with this London team? Are they going to be laid off? Are they going to move to other teams? Those are tough questions, and a CEO needs to answer that. Not anyone else, a CEO.
My God, thank you, Braveheart. I felt like the Braveheart music needs to be playing behind you during that speech. I don't think I've ever heard Phil so impassioned.
It's just, they're so important to all of us. And I'm just so frustrated that they seem to have their blinders on when it comes to some of this stuff. It's time to step up. If you're serious about building games that are remembered forever, if you're serious about IPOing, like put on your big boy pants and let's go. Let's get this done. And let's make hard choices. And it's going to be a series of hard choices for Supercell to get to IPO. Because remember, Brawl Stars is down again, right? And the saving grace is that Clash Royale is up. But the portfolio is not looking good. You don't want to IPO with 2 duds. You want to be growing. You want to have a great story.
Last game that you shipped big was 2018. Yes. But hey, you're opening up AI labs in every city. And and also they use word layoff. It's called sparked now. So you get sparked.
Oh boy.
Basically,
they're rebranding.
No, I'm just kidding. Basically, like you get it. A lot of new people go into this new game development, which is in a different building often. And that's where you spark it out. Either you succeed or you move out.
Well, I think we should wrap it here. I will not see you next week. I'll see you in like 3 or 4 weeks. The guys will see you next week. All right.
We will run the show to the ground.
Jen.
Yeah.
Thank you guys.
You're going to come back. You're going to be all about attribution. I'm looking forward. It's going to be like a beautiful mind moment. You're going to see all the numbers. It's going to all make sense now. Direct response advertising.
They're going to like take like tech and like implant it right here. And then I'm going to plug into the matrix and then I'm going to start talking like Phil and say attribution. And it'll be awesome.
They start shit posting and fire speeches on LinkedIn. All right.
Yeah.
Goodbye, everybody.
Just become Phil. All right. Bye, guys.
You did it. You made it to the end of the episode. As a fan of the show, it would help us out if you'd subscribe and leave us a review on the podcast service of your choice. Those stars and likes, while a small action on your part, mean a lot to us and help to grow the show. More importantly, are you a member of the Deconstructor of Fun Slack group? If you have 5 years or more of games industry experience, go to deconstructoroffun.com/Slack and apply to join. Join the games industry best professional community filled with peers always willing to lend a hand, or subscribe to our newsletter to get all the latest insights from the Deconstructor of Fun content creators. Thanks for listening.